Hey, what's going on everybody? Cypress here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up the Beetle emulator for RetroArch to use for speedrunning. Let's do it. In this tutorial, we're going to be covering how to get the emulator up and running, how to verify your BIOS, how to verify your game, and lastly, how to make sure all your settings are correct. Links to all the resources that I can provide will be down in the description below. Let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to retroarch.com, then head on over to their downloads section, scroll down, and select the appropriate platform for you. Now, I have a 64-bit Windows installation, so this is what I'm gonna go ahead and download. Go ahead and download the appropriate file and save it somewhere where you can easily find it. Next, find your installer and open it up. Hit next, agree to their license, install it somewhere where you're gonna be able to find it easily, hit next. You don't need to install DirectX runtime, so just hit next, hit install, and let it do its thing. Alternatively, there's a 7-zip package available for download. If you'd rather use that, right click on the file, 7-zip, extract files. Again, extract it somewhere where you're going to be able to find it easily, hit OK, and away you go. Once you have the emulator in the folder of your choosing, go ahead and enter that folder and scroll down. To make sure that the emulator is running correctly, you want to make sure that you're running it in administrator mode. To do that, you can right click on RetroArch, click Properties, go to Compatibility, and enable Run this program as administrator. Now you can go ahead and fire it up. Setting up a controller on your PC is a bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. However, if you have an X input controller already set up on your PC, RetroArch will automatically detect it and you'll be able to navigate the menus with it. I have an official Sony DS3 here. If you want to set up a DS3 on your PC, you can use VIGEM if you're on Windows 10, or SCP Toolkit if you're on Windows 8.1 or below. To get the actual Beetle emulator for RetroArch, go to Main Menu, Load Core, Download a Core, and scroll all the way down to the Sony PlayStation. And there it is, Beetle PSX HW. Great, now we've got it. You will notice that downloading Beetle has created a downloads folder for us. Now would be a good time to talk about BIOS files and game files. Now, I can't tell you guys how to get them, except Google will have your answers. Once you're back with your files, you're gonna want to put them in the appropriate folders. BIOS files are required to go in the system folder. Most emulators require you to use the 5500 series of BIOSes, so that's what we're gonna be using today. 00 being NTSC-J, 01 being NTSC-U, and 02 being PAL. For your game files, you're gonna want to stick them in a newly created downloads folder for easy access. You'll see why in a little bit. Try to get your games in a bin and queue file format if you can. Now if you're any worried about the legitimacy or validity of your BIOS or game dumps, here's an easy way to make sure that they are okay. We'll be making sure that our files are intact by comparing their hashes. A hash is a long number made from every byte of a particular file. If even one bit of one byte is different, the hash will also be different. There are databases of known good hashes that we can compare our generated hash to make sure that our files are okay. To get started, go to onlinemd5.com and drag and drop one of your BIOS files. Here is our newly generated hash. To compare it to our known good one, Google PS1 BIOS hashes and click on the first result. Scroll down to PlayStation and click Expand, and look for the BIOS that you are comparing against. I dropped in 5502, and this is its hash. You can select this whole number and drag and drop it into the Compare With box, and click Compare. Looks like our BIOS file is intact. You should do this for all the BIOS files that you have. Next, I'm going to show you how to check the integrity of your game files. We're going to be checking this game, Ritai Ninja Katsugeki Tenchu Shinobi Gaisen. You're going to need to check every bin file that your game comes with. So let's get started with track 1 here. Here's a newly generated hash. To compare it with a known good one, go to redump.org, disks, Sony PlayStation, R for retie, and scroll down. There it is, Shinobi Gaisen. And these are the hashes for both of the bin files. Looks like track 1 is good. Let's check the other one just to make sure. Looks like that one is good too. Our game is intact. Now if any of your hash checks fail, that means that that file is not 100% original. This probably means that one of your files didn't dump correctly, or that file was tampered with in some way after the fact. In this case, you should probably reacquire that file. Now I must say, the hash checking step is completely optional, but it does tell you that your files are 100% legitimate, official, and untampered with. Alright, now we're ready to launch your game and go over some of the settings. To launch your game, go to Main Menu, Load Content, Downloads, and choose the Q file for your game. If you have multiple cores installed, it'll ask you which one you'd like to choose, but if you only have Beetle, it'll use that by default. To open up your settings, launch your game and press F1, then scroll down to Options. By default, the emulator is configured for console accuracy, which is what we want. However, if you've previously used the emulator and would like to now configure it for speedruns, here's the settings that you have to look out for. Software frame buffer on. Internal GPU resolution 1. Internal color depth 16. Differing pattern 1. Texture filtering nearest. All these settings off. Line to quad default. CPU Dynarect Beetle interpreter. Code invalidation full. GPU event cycles 128. CPU frequency 100. GTE overclock off. GPU rasterizer overclock 1. Skip BIOS off. Widescreen hack off. PAL video timing override off. CD access method synchronous and CD loading speed 2. If you are running New Game Plus and are required to use a particular save file, or you just want to use your friends or something, you're gonna have to set your memory card access method. By default, it is set to libretro. Beetle creates two types of memory card files, MCR and SRM. SRM corresponds to the libretro method, while MCR corresponds to the Benathan method. Depending on what type of memory card file you get, you have to set your settings appropriately. You're gonna have to restart your emulator for these settings to take effect. To use an external save file, first open up the saves folder in RetroArch. Next, copy your new save file into the folder and replace the file. You're gonna have to set your memory card method appropriately. Here I'm using an MCR file, so I'm gonna need to select Benathan. After that, close content and reboot your game. Now you're ready to go. Lastly, I'm quickly gonna go over some useful hotkeys. F2 to save state, F4 to load state, F6 to go back a save slot, F7 to go forward a save slot, F for full screen, and H for restart. If you want to manually select which save slot you want to save to, press F1, quick menu, and save slot. And you have a huge variety, huge range. So that about wraps it up, guys. Now you're set up on a Beetle emulator for fair competition. I hope this video was easy to follow and informative. Have fun speedrunning, guys, and good luck. Cypress out.